Here today. Good morning. Welcome. It's so good to be back here. I love this. This is my Unity family. So thanks for being here. Thanks for ahead of time. Thank you for laughing in all of the right places. It helps me. So I'm happy to be here. I'm going to focus today on the prayer for protection, if you couldn't tell. Right? There was a song about it, and then there was a song about prayer, and et cetera, et cetera. But I want to start by reminding you of the third unity principle that we just said together. Human beings create their experiences by the activity of their thinking. Everything in the manifest realm has its beginning in thought. One of the things that tells me is that I'm responsible. I'm accountable. If everything starts with a thought, I'm responsible. And we've all been there where thoughts have popped up in our heads that have shocked us to no end, right? But what I'm responsible for is not necessarily controlling what pops into my head, but what I'm going to do with it when it does, right? So recently, I was thinking back to when I first got the call to ministry, and this was back in April of 2016. And some of you have heard this story, so I'll make it short so you don't get bored. But I was at Unity Village, and I was going through an intensive week of classes to become a licensed Unity teacher. And at that point, I had not thought for any moment that I wanted to be a minister. Licensed Unity teacher was my goal. And so I went into the Peace Chapel on Unity Village campus, where Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, they prayed in that room. And I went in that room at 7:30. We had a little meditation service every day at 7:30 before classes started at 8. And when I walked out of that meditation service, I had a beautiful little affirmation that had come to me. And it was, I am willing and open to all possibilities. I am willing and open to all possibilities. And so I walked out, and a lot more happened that day. I thought that was a cute little affirmation, but as things started to progress that day, it wasn't so cute anymore because it was making me think I had to be open. I had to be willing, so I wasn't so thrilled with it. But anyway, I was thinking about that affirmation over the last week or so, and it's evolved. It's changed. And the reason it's changed is because something was going on inside of me when I said the word opportunities. So now I'll share the new, not opportunities. When I said the word possibilities, that's what was going on inside of me. And I'll share with you where I went with that. Instead of I am willing, it became I am willing to see. And instead of I am open to all possibilities, it became I am open to all opportunities. So now it is I am willing to see and open to all opportunities. Big difference. Not many words changed, right? But willingness isn't always enough. What am I willing to do? I have to be willing to keep my eyes open and see what's in front of me. I will be honest with you, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this. I'm not happy with everything I see right now. Right? The world is a really tough place to be at times. But I don't have to make it tough. I can still make it okay, and I can still make it good. Right? And the word possibilities is kind of like that fairy tale wish kind of a thing. Possible, I hope it happens, maybe. Versus opportunities means it's coming. It's going to be there. It's just up to me whether I'm going to say yes or no. Are you with me? Okay. So that's what's been going on inside of me. And I share that with you now because of the words, and which relates to that third principle, right? Human beings create their experiences by the activity of their thinking. Well, I think in words. I see images as well. But I think and words pop into my head, etc. So I'm going to invite you to just consider the possibility think about what you're saying to yourself. Think about what you're hearing and see if you might be willing to change it a little bit, because it can be very powerful. So let's move into, I got this in the mail. Maybe some of you have seen it. It's a little booklet, Unity Village, Unity World Headquarters, which is in charge of the entire campus at Unity Village, and they're also in charge of Silent Unity, etc. They send out these little booklets every so often, and this one is The Prayer for Protection, a Beloved Prayer Brought to Life. And it is one of the most popular prayers in Unity. I think that is a safe statement to make, right? So the first thing I'm going to point out to you, because I have done this, I have often said prayer of protection, prayer for protection. It just kind of alternates back and forth. The actual prayer is the prayer for protection, just so you know. And it was written by James Dillett Freeman, who was a wonderful poet. For Unity for many, many years, very active in the Unity movement. And he wrote it in 1940. Think about when that was, what was going on in 1940. World War II. He was asked to prepare something for a Unity service around Christmas time of 1940. And this is what he came up with. Okay, it's printed over and over. Many Unity churches use the prayer for protection a lot in their Sunday services, etc. They either open the service or they close the service, etc. And it's so well known. Did you know that Buzz Aldrin took that prayer to the moon? Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did. There's a couple of other prayers. I think James Dillett Freeman has 2 poems on the moon. I don't know what the name of the other one is, but the prayer for protection is up there. Okay, and James Dillett Freeman even wrote. He said, "I never met Buzz Aldrin. I never was involved with NASA. I don't know how this happened, but he took the poem up there." So I think that's a pretty cool fact. So it was written during World War II, and he wrote it with me. Right? So the light of God enfolds, you see, now you're going to have to, okay. The light of God surrounds me. The love of God enfolds me, etc. But there's no reason why we can't substitute us or we in there. So that was I'm taking this information from an article that James wrote himself about this prayer and how it evolved. And he knows that it evolved. He knew that it had evolved. And he didn't have the statement, "all is well," at the end. That is not the way the prayer was originally written. And I want to bring that out to you because I want you to just think about this. Nobody's really going to know. James is no longer with us on this planet. He's transitioned to the next part of the journey. But why would somebody write "all is well" during wartime? If they were trying to reach people, to make them feel like, to remind them that they were protected, right? But things were not appearing to be well in those moments, and yet we're still protected, right? Now, whether you say all is well at the end or not, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not telling you can't say all is well. I'm pointing it out as just a point of during that time, he didn't want to add, he didn't want to put that line in there. I don't know when that happened. I don't think it was from him. And I don't know when it happened that Unity churches all of a sudden started saying, "I am the light of God. I am the love of God. I am the power of God. I am the presence of God." Right after they say it, "The light of God surrounds me. I am the light of God." Whew. Okay, so I look at you all here, and I say to you, and to you on Facebook, or on Zoom, and I say to you all, you are the light of God. Do you believe that?
Yes.
Good. There might be a couple that don't. And I'm going to say to you, don't worry about it. I'm going to say to you, don't worry that it doesn't feel truthful to you yet. Okay? Because I believe that we are all the light, the love, the presence, and the power of God. We don't always appear that way, do we? And I could probably give you a long list of people that I know that don't appear that way to me right now, right? The point of this whole exercise, the point of this talk, we are going to follow this up on October 15th when I come back. I'm going to do a part 2. Don't know what I'm going to call it yet, but we'll see. But we're going to stay with this idea that what if I am the light of God? What if I am the love of God? What if every single person I encounter, even the grumpy cashier at the grocery store, what if I feel that connection and understand that they too are the light of God? How would that change my daily life experience? Right? Go back to principle number 3 about we create our stuff, right? We create our experience with our thoughts. So what if I'm in the grocery store and the grumpy cashier is throwing my stuff into a grocery bag and I see the light of God coming from her anyway? And I say to her, thank you, I hope you have a good day. I'm going to tell you that I've tried this experiment a little bit and it shocks them. It shocks them to no end because they know they're being grumpy. Don't you know when you're being grumpy? I know when I'm being grumpy. I was grumpy the other night with my daughter and I apologized Saturday morning. She was like, there's no reason to apologize, but I felt there was because I was being grumpy. When you have 4 cats in the house, it makes for craziness. Anyway, the idea here is to take these words from this prayer and then utilize it into our lives, into our daily spiritual practice, however you want to utilize it, but think about what power it has behind it. So I'm coming to the tricky part of this whole thing, right? We in Unity often say that God is not a separate being in the sky. Right? God is not up there. God, spirit, God, mind, divine mind is in here. We've already got it. We're already connected to it. Nothing you do can break my connection. I'm connected to you whether you like it or not. I often say that, right? And we are connected to divine mind no matter what. Even when we don't want to be, we can't break that connection. It's a matter of remembering that we are connected. It's a matter of remembering that no matter what, we've got the power, we've got resources available to us. There's an infinite supply of divine ideas that can come to us to help us walk through any challenge. So with this in mind, when you say to yourself, I am the light, love, power, and presence of God, do you understand how powerful that is? I mean, that is like huge. I don't feel like I can put it into words adequately enough. I am the light, love, power, and presence of God, really? I'll share with you my journey with these words. The challenge I had was that I was raised in a traditional faith for many years. I was a practicing Christian for 49 years before I found Unity. So this idea that God was not a separate being in the sky that I had to please was very foreign to me. And it took me several years to kind of get used to that. And sometimes it's even hard now to remember that God is not judging me. In other words, I don't have to worry about being enough for God. That's a title for a talk, isn't it? Being enough for God? Stay tuned. So understanding that God is not someone I have to please, someone that is going to maybe allow me to go to heaven or maybe send me to purgatory. which I thought my mother was stuck in forever. But, all of these things, I just understood that for the first time, there was more to the words that I was saying. There was more to it. If I stand here in front of you now and I say, I am the light of God, the first question I have that pops up is, do I believe it? I'm saying it out loud to you, but do I really believe that? And yes and no. When I'm on top of my spiritual game, yes, I got it. I'm good. You can't hurt me. I'm here to help you. I'm open. It's great. And then I go to work. And then I'm with my coworkers. And then somebody might be complaining about something, and something we can't change, right? We have a lot of change going on at work right now. And and my face gets a little lower. I work at home, so it's okay. Nobody sees it. And, but, it's tough. It's tough, right? I believe it, and then I forget it. And then I believe it again, and then I forget it. And then I believe it when I'm preparing the talk for you this morning, and then I forget it, right? But what I'm going to challenge you with is to actually take this prayer and take a look at it as it was originally written, right? You can add all is well if you want to. That's fine. I just wanted you to understand that all is well was not something that was during wartime. They just, they wanted people to get this feeling of protection. I'm going to say this feeling of divine protection, right? And that leaves me with this for all of you. God is not waiting to do something for us. I'm going to say to you that God is actually being through us. That song you just heard, my life is a prayer that God is praying. Like, if you really tuned into that one line, would your life be a good reflection? Sometimes, yes, thank you. Yes, me too. Me too. We're all in this together, My life is a prayer that God is praying. Jim Rosemurgy, who most of you know this, he was my mentor. I worked for him as his office administrator down in Unity of Fort Myers for a little over 4 years, I think it was. And he wrote a book called The Prayer That God Prays. And one day he was at this event, Stow Good. The two women in the group Stow Good were at the same benefit that he was at. And it came to him that he should share the line with them. My life is a prayer that God is praying. And he just wrote it on I don't know if it was a napkin or not, but let's say a piece of paper. And he went over to their table and he said to them, listen, it just came to me, I wrote this book a few years ago, but, I just thought maybe it might make a good song someday. And the truth of the matter is that they took that, they got excited, they went upstairs to their hotel room, and 2 hours later, they called Jim and Nancy Rosemurgy in their hotel room and said, come here, we think you need to hear this. And they had written the song, right? I got goosebumps every time I tell that story. And when Jim and Nancy had come home from whatever the event was and they shared it with me, it was just so powerful. He was so excited. It was even put up for a Posy Award. They didn't win, but they were nominated for a Posy Award, which is very cool. But think of the words. If you leave here with nothing else, you walk out, remember, my mother used to ask me all the time on Sundays when I came home from church, if she didn't go to the same mass I did, I had to tell her what the homily was about. I remember her asking, so what'd the priest say? What was he talking about? What was the topic? And she knew what the topic was. She had been to mass before me, but I went to the more contemporary one, So if you walk out of here and you leave with nothing else, this is what I want you to leave with. I want you to think about the words that you're using and understand the meaning of them. My example earlier of changing possibilities to opportunities, just feels right for me. Changing willingness to willing to see. Because willing to see means I need to look at things that bother me just as much as I need to look at things that make me happy. When I get too stressed out on Facebook, I go to cat and dog pictures, right? And I scroll past all the political stuff, right? I don't need to see it. I know how I feel. And I don't need to tell anybody else how they should feel. Everybody should be able to feel the way they feel, right? But I want people to be loving and kind. That's a message I want to send out on Facebook. But sometimes you get stressed out. I just go to the cats and the dogs. It works for me, right?
There's also monkeys.
Monkeys. There you go. All right. I'll be busy this afternoon. So I would love for you to consider in these next few weeks, before I come back on the 15th, I want you to consider your daily spiritual practice. Some of you sitting here may not have one at all. Some of you may have one set up, but you kind of participate in it every so often, or, once a week or whatever. And some of you are very, very religious. I use that term very loosely. Religious about doing it on a daily practice, right? I want you to consider thinking about this prayer. And you don't have to say the whole thing. I use the I am statements because they speak more to me. I will be honest with you, and this is just my take. And please remember, I will give you this instruction. Anything I say from up here is just from my perspective. You don't have to believe anything I say. You can if you want, but don't take it at face value. Find out what it means for you personally, right? So when I say the phrase, the light of God surrounds me, it sounds like I'm talking about the light of something else surrounds me. That I'm expecting someone or something, because we often have referred to God as him, but in recent years, especially in unity centers, we have said it, because it's divine mind. It's not a person, right? But it's hard to take the word God and not think of a him. It's just difficult. And even if I use the word it still is hard for me personally to not think of it as separate from me and I'm waiting for it to do something. Like surround me with the light, please. Right? Enfold me with the love, please. Waiting for it to happen. It's already here. It's already done. And so when I use the I am statements, it's more helpful. And you could take that into your daily spiritual practice. I am the light. I am the love. I am the power. I am the presence. I am? Isn't that exciting? Right? But we each are responsible and accountable for how we interpret it, how we use it, and where it takes us. Nobody will know. But I'm guessing it's going to take us to exciting places. All right. So on October 14th, I'm going to come back and I want to continue this conversation with those 4 qualities identified in the prayer. Light, we're going to talk about spiritual understanding, right? Not understanding at a human level, but understanding spiritually. Big difference. Love, there is an unlimited supply. So my friends, share it with the world. Go for it, right? We'll talk more about that. We'll talk about the power, which is about creative potential. I don't know that everyone here in this room, and I'm including myself, I don't know that we always remember just how much potential we have. It's the Christ potential. Am I using it? We'll talk about that a little bit. And then presence, the presence of God. I am the presence of God. Awareness of our true being. I know some of you have struggled with your belief in self. I know that some of you have struggled with this issue of, I don't do that really well, and I don't do that really well, and I really should be doing this. Well, stop shitting on yourselves, and let's start focusing on what we're doing right. Let's start focusing on the good choices that we make. I don't care if you make 100 wrong choices in a day. If you make one right choice, lay your head on the pillow and know that the divine love is already within you. It never goes away. All right? So I hope to see some of you on October 15th so we can continue this conversation, see where your thinking takes you. And so it is. Amen.